dangerous. Open up your head, feel the show shot. This is dangerous. I walk through minefields and watch your head rock. I walk through minefields, yeah. Shot.
Today I'm going to talk about socialism and communism, how essentially they're the same thing, and that they are both anti-Christian because they come from Marx. So they're all linked. They're all linked together. They're all part of the same family tree of anti-Christian intellectualism that comes from Karl Marx, who sold his soul to the devil, as has been demonstrated in Richard Wurmbrand's book, Marx and Satan. I'm going to be picking up as an outline of this talk from Dr. John R. Rice's book, False Doctrines Answered from the Scriptures, starting at page 394. And he has lots of great quotes here, but I'm going to use this as an outline of what I'm going to talk about here. Basically, the goal of both socialism and communism is that one is faster and one is slower. Okay, Marxism, in a nutshell, is massive theft of all private property, as I've said before. Massive theft of all private property and giving it to the government so that there's a dictator at the top who believes that he's benevolent and takes care of his atheistic utopian society and makes everybody live like a pauper under his grandfatherly care. So it ultimately is about making everything owned by the government. Everything. Land, property, farms, mines, railroads, steamboats, cars, buses, telegraphs, telephone lines, mills, factories, modern machinery, all has to be owned by the government. That's what socialism is, that's what communism is, that's what Marxism is. The only difference between socialism and communism is that communism is faster, it's called accelerationist, and socialism is slower, it's called pragmatist. Dr. John R. Rice puts it like this on page 397. The communists say, let us kill people and get them out of the way and do it now. The socialists say, no, let us do it a little slower and easier. Don't kill them if we can help it. I'm not lying, nor joking, nor twisting, but giving you the facts about it. Page 397. So that kind of sums it up in a nutshell. We certainly have Marxism going on in our society now. And it's a scary thing to behold. And we should give them the full force of the law for betraying their country, both privately and publicly. We should not give them the right of freedom of speech because this type of freedom of speech is treasonous. Okay, it's treasonous. This isn't like preaching the gospel or sharing different philosophical views. This type of freedom of speech is about rabble-rousing people to rebel against the government. Okay, so this is treason and is punishable by law. Socialism says let's be pragmatic about this. Let's do this the slow way. Let's get into the Democrat Party and be like Bernie Sanders. Or maybe let's get into the Democratic Socialists of America Party and be like Mamdani. And we'll do this the slower way, the political way, the pragmatic way. We'll win the people. The ultimate goal is to do away with private ownership and have the government own literally everything. The means of production and distribution of wealth by the benevolent dictator who takes care of his fawning children. Communism is more reflected by Antifa. Antifa is the communist group of today. They are violent, as you can clearly see, but they differ in application and philosophy than somebody like Mamdani. However, Mamdani will still protect them, although he differs with them philosophically about their use of violence. At the end of the day, they'll all cross their legs and drink tea about the subject. At least we got what we all wanted. State ownership of all property. You know, there was a Pixies album called Trompe le Monde, which is French for fool the world. And that's essentially what Marxism is about. It's not based on honesty, right? The Ten Commandments are rejected, and so therefore, in communism, you have a deep-seated, hardened, anti-Christian intellectualism that says, do whatever you can to make state ownership of property a reality. Kill people, lie to people, create false gods, do whatever you can to make this happen. It's a complete lawless, outlaw, gang ideology. And it's about fooling people. Don't be deceived by liberation theology and black liberation theology and the Black Lives Matter thing and we're all about the protecting our homosexuals and our Muslims and our blacks. It's not about that. That's propaganda. Do you understand? That is propaganda. Because ultimately, what the people at the top want is they want to be a dictator. They want to have a dictatorship and they want the government to own everything. That's what it's about. It's not about being anti-racist. It's not about being pro-homosexual. Because no Muslim is truly pro-homosexual. Come on. Can you imagine all these homosexual people in America here that are protesting with Antifa? What if they were to go to Saudi Arabia? How do you think they'd be treated? No. I'm telling you, this confusing narrative that we're getting on NBC and ABC and ABC, we might as well say every time the word C exists in these news channels, you should see the word communist. American broadcasters of communism. National broadcasters of communism. Or some other type of communism. Communist News Network. CNN. Okay, so state ownership of property. They want to own everything, right? So all these narratives that you're getting, like if you want to be really anti-racist, then be a socialist or a Democrat or some mixture of both or maybe even a communist. Then you really love black people, because if you're not a communist, then you don't love black people. This is just foolishness. It's foolishness. What do you think Azusa Street revival was about? Was that about being a communist? No. You had black people and white people getting along together there because it was about the gospel. It was about the Holy Ghost. No, this stuff is just foolishness is what it is. And so there's nothing anti-racist about socialism and communism. There's nothing pro-homosexual about socialism and communism. There's nothing pro-Muslim about socialism and communism. There's only one locus. There's only one important thing about socialism and communism, and guess what it is? Government ownership of all property and business. That's it. That's all they want. That's all they want. Because they think there is no God, and so why don't we just let the government be God, play God? And so there will be no rich and poor, and we can live in an atheist utopia, and it will be power to the people. That's another lie, and it's another narrative. The people are not going to be in power. Remember Russia. Remember Germany. These are socialist countries, okay? Remember China, which is, by the way, this guy has just been outed by Fox Business, and this needs to turn into a headline story. I mean, this should be on the front of New York Times or something. This guy has apparently been identified by the FBI Neville Roy Singham. Neville Roy Singham as the funder of the Antifa riots. And he lives in Shanghai, China, and he's married to Jody Evans. And they're radical far leftist socialists, and they believe in Maoism, and they believe in the Chinese Communist Party, and he even works with the propaganda department of the Chinese Communist Party. So he's taking Chinese propaganda ideas and piping them over here. So this stuff that we're getting is Chinese communism. This is becoming Americanized. This is becoming Americanized. Why are the Antifa people flying flags upside down? They're just useful idiots. That's all they are. They don't know what's going on here. They probably don't even understand what's going on at all. They're being manipulated on the basis of loving their black friends or loving their gay friends. Okay? These are the strings that they're being pulled on, right? These are the manipulation strings. Communism's not about loving black people and loving gays and loving Muslims. Communism and socialism are not about that. They're about one thing. Make the government own everything. Everything. Government owns every business. It owns all property. That's all they care about. And you never hear that on the news stories. You never hear that. That's it. You know why? Because it's propaganda. This stuff is just propaganda. Because like in Hitler's time, the propaganda was the anti-Semite propaganda. Right? I don't remember what the propaganda was in Russia, but I'm sure they had some sort of a narrative thing going on there too to manipulate people. The goal is state ownership of all private property. State ownership of all property, all business, all house. The government owns literally everything. That's all they care about. They're tunnel focused on that, believe me. They might not announce that at their public communist meetings because they want to talk about black and gay and Muslim. And it's all about loving everybody and some sort of a utopian plurality. But the narrative stuff is propaganda. It's brainwashing garbage is all it is. Because all they want to do is have a benevolent atheistic dictator, an anti-Christian benevolent atheistic dictator who will take care of them in their atheistic poor lifestyle. I mean, this is just, they don't even think about that. Trompe le monde, fool the world. Oh, power to the people. You will be powerless, people, if you keep on going along with this. You're being fools, just like it says in Psalm 14:1. The fool has said in his heart, there is no God. The only difference, Dr. Rice says, is that communism, as it was in Russia, insists on the right to take over with a violent overthrow, bloodshed, and murder. While the socialists say, no, let us get in and do it in America. FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, was the first president to sort of weasel socialist ideas into American government, and his effect is still today. There was a politician before him named Eugene Debs. He was hardcore Marxist, very much like Bernie Sanders, but he was too extreme, and people were not ready for him. So, I mean, why is Bernie Sanders even allowed to operate in our government? Guys, why is he even allowed? I mean, don't you understand that his whole ideology is anti-American? When was the last time you read a book on socialism or political ideology? I mean, he does not belong in Congress at all. He does not belong there. He is a traitor. He has betrayed his country through his ideology. And his angry rhetoric shows that he's a communist at heart. It's only operating under pragmatic principles because you think he can get more done that way. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, because of the Great Depression, introduced Social Security, labor protections for union workers in factories so that the strikes would not keep on going on. Massive public works, I don't really know what that means, and federal economic planning. Okay, so this was about as socialist as he got, but apparently, I mean, that was done by 1945, so I mean, we've had a good long time to be able to have democratic people build on his socialist ideas that he brought into the American government. It's been about 80 years of iteration and development of socialist ideas that was expanded. So apparently Lyndon B. Johnson expanded it some more in the 1960s. He called it the Great Society Program. So FDR's was called the New Deal, and LBJ had what was called the Great Society Program, and he brought Medicare, Medicaid, welfare, federal education funding, housing programs, and civil rights enforcement. And you can see where that's why the whole racial civil rights, love black people thing got looped into the whole socialist ideology. So in the 60s with Martin Luther King, who was apparently a socialist at heart, this is why the black community has been so tainted with socialism, because they've let out the carpet. Yeah, you say, come on, we'll help you out. We'll help black people out. And, that sounds nice, but Marxism is in the mix, though, guys. That's the problem. And that's the problem with that. And then Bernie Sanders shows up, and he comes more. He builds on Debs, and he builds on FDR, and he builds on LBJ. And while he has not vocally said, let's abolish markets and let's have the government take over businesses, he has said that he agrees with Debs and stuff, and that's dangerous, because Debs was 100%. Eugene Debs was 100% Marx influenced, 100% anti-capitalist and anti-corporate. Bernie Sanders is really ultimately to blame for all of this stuff going on. I believe that. All this woke stuff, that's Bernie Sanders. That's Bernie Sanders. You may say, oh, no, that's Black Lives Matter. No, it's Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is behind the whole thing. He's the one that's coloring all of this stuff with socialism, because you know what? I think he wants to be an American Stalin. That's what I think. I think that he wants to be the benevolent grandfather of an atheist utopian society that takes care of people through communism. And he's doing everything he can to stir every leftist cause he can for his communist utopian vision. That's exactly what I believe about him. Because he's gone way further than New Deal and Great Society, FDR and LBJ, in the stuff that he's talking about. And he makes it look like he's so benevolent and so good. No, he's not. He is not. He's not. I do not like what his ideas are about. And to me, I see just nothing but traitor printed on his forehead. And I'm sticking to that. I am sticking to that. And I am very worried about him and Mamdani. And they should seriously be investigated by the FBI for treason. And that's all I have to say about that.